if I told you that if you did one thing, if you focused on doing one thing, that you could exponentially and positively impact your finances, your faith, your relationship, and your emotional and your physical health? There really is one thing. There's one thing, and I want to apologize for those of you that kind of follow along with notes and stuff. I messed up our team. I gave them the wrong title for last week, and it said Get Organized. That's not last week. That's this week. So that's on me. So if you see on your notes, like, was it last week Get Organized? But he talked about habits. Okay, so that was supposed to be Break the Habits. That's on me. This week is the whole organization thing that we're going to be talking about. But that one thing will really radically alter how you experience life, how you enjoy life, how much you get out of life if you will do that one thing. In fact, it's interesting. There is just a slew of unbelievable positive impacts by doing this one thing. There's a website called simplyproductive.com. You can get on there, and they literally have pages and pages and pages of all this decades worth of research and studies and all these different things that talk about the benefits of doing this one thing. So I want to just share a few of them. First of all, if you do this one thing, you will experience up to 40% less housework. Yeah, right? You'll gain back 150 hours a year, or over the lifespan, an entire year of your life. Your productivity will increase by up to 38%. You'll significantly decrease your stress level, which could end up resulting in about 80% less payments in medical expenses. Your sleep will improve by 30%, and you'll spend more time with your family. This one thing, and all these benefits come with doing this one thing. And that's just a handful of the 100 and some odd that are there. Now, but as nice as it is to have all this information and to know that all these really big doctors with all these alphabet letters behind their name and all these studies that are decades and 2 decades long and hundreds of and thousands upon hundreds of thousands of hours of research tell us that this one thing is important, really what's more important is the fact that God says that it's important. So look at this, if you will. It's in Psalm 90, and it's verse 10 and verse 12, and it's the writer David, and he's writing down a prayer that he prays. And I want you to listen. This is so cool. David says this: the years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength, 80. So those of you that are 70, that's it. That's all you get is 70. No, that's not what he says. He's like, listen, so really the average age of life is 70, and if you're really living life, well, you can live to 80. My grandfather lived to 102, so hey, I don't know how long I've got left, but really as we look at that, hey, this is kind of the lifespan, right? And then in verse 12, he says this. Listen to his prayer. He says, so, teach us to number, and if it's not, underline that on your notes, circle that. If you're doing this on YouVersion, highlight that word number, because that is really the key to all this. He says, so teach us to number our days so that we may gain or get a heart of wisdom. So here's what David is saying. That word that's translated into our English language as number means this. It means to actually number, or to count, or to consider, to think about, to process, or to order. So David says, listen, based upon the fact that we get this life, and when this life is over with, then that's it. He's trying to convey a very important fact to us. And I know that this may come as a surprise to some of you. We only get one life. Okay? Now if you really need a little reinforcement, look to the person to your left, to your right, the person that you love the most, and tell them, this is it, baby. This is it. This is all we get. This life is all there is. And when it's over, it's over. So David goes, listen, this life is all we get. So here's what we need to do. We need to consider, we need to count, and we need to order our days so that we can gain or get wisdom. Now, wisdom is not just knowledge. Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge correctly. Have you ever known someone that was super smart, but really dumb? Don't point. That's not nice. Right? They are intelligent. They have all the smarts in the world, but they can't turn a car on. They don't know how to cook an egg. They don't know right from wrong. I mean, they have all this intelligence, but they have no ability to apply that. That's what wisdom is. Wisdom is the ability to get knowledge, but then also to learn how to apply it. And so David says, so here's the key to being able to actually maximize your life, and that is to order it, to consider it, to number it, to put it in a correct order and a process. And because when we do that, we actually are able to maximize our life. And why does God care about that? Well, God cares about that because He gave you the life that you are currently living. God gave you that life. And if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, not only did He give you the life that you're living, but then Jesus Christ died to give you new life so that you can have a fresh perspective on life to live for the glory of God. And so your responsibility as a follower of Jesus Christ is to maximize your life for the glory of God. That's what God has called us to do. And as a part of that, God has a purpose and a plan and all these different things that He has for your life. But if you don't do this one thing, you're going to miss out. So here's the big idea. Big idea for today is this: organization is the secret ingredient to a maximized life. Organization is the secret ingredient to a maximized life. Now, really quickly, don't raise your hand because I'm not going to call you out, but just I know that every spreadsheet organized freak in this building right now was sitting there, looked at the other organized spreadsheet people and went, I knew we were right. I knew we were right? Or maybe you reached over and you squeezed the hand of your spouse who happens to be the seat of their pants spontaneous person, and you gave them a look like, that's right. That's right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with you this morning, okay? We're just going to start with you because there's a part of organization that, believe it or not, and all of you people who are the disorganized messes, you can respond to this if you want to. There's a part where you can over-organize. There's too much organization. Some of you right now this morning, your life is color-coded, collated, and alphabetized. And you know everything that's going to happen. You have it all laid out. It's all, this is all these different things that you're working on. And the truth is that there is a point. It's called the law of diminishing return. If you really want to know kind of the philosophical idea behind it, you can over-organize. So this first part of the message is actually for all of you spreadsheet people. And here's the first thought. Be organized. That's important, right? Be organized. But always keep God in the center. Be organized, but keep God in the center. Because here's what happens. You can actually organize so much that you organize God out. You can actually organize your life so much that you do this, and I don't say this in a positive way, you put God in His place. You're like, God, listen, you get from 10:15 to 12:15 on Sundays. And here's the reality. If we're not out of there by 12:15, God time's over with. And we need to go because lunch is calling, and that's what we need to do. And this is, God, that's your place. That's where you live. But here's the problem with that. That is not how God intends for us to live. God is to be a saturation effect of every part of your life. And you know what? I've read the Bible since I was a little kid. I've been a pastor for almost 30 years. And you know what phrase I have never seen in the Bible? You ready for this? His life went according to plan. Think about it. Everybody you read about the Old Testament and the New Testament and the end of their life, you would never go, well, their life went exactly the way that they thought it would. God doesn't work that way. God is not a God of chaos. He's not a God of spontaneity, but He is a God of organization. But the problem is that the way that God thinks is not how we think. So we think we're going to organize everything and get everything figured out, and God's going, what's wrong with you? That is not the plan I have for you. That's not the agenda I have for you. That's not where I'm going. So if you hyper-organize everything in your life, you literally make it to a point where you have forced God to the edges or to a certain area. So be careful. It's okay to be organized, but keep God at the center. I want to give you 3 quick reasons and some verses that correspond with that. Okay, so the first one is this. Be organized, but keep God at the center, because your destination is ultimately up to Him. Your destination, where you're going in life, is ultimately determined by Him. So you're organizing your life based upon what you think you're going to do and based upon what you think you're going to accomplish. But the problem is that God has a different plan for your life than you do. Listen to this. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. We can make our plans. Planning is good, not a bad thing. Being organized is good, not a bad thing. But notice then there's a but. But the Lord does what? The Lord's the one that determines our steps. The Lord is the one that determines where we're going to end up. So you can plan, that's great, but you need to plan with flexibility. Because God is going to do twists and turns and ups and downs and right turns and left turns and all sorts of crazy things in your life. And if you are so brittly and rigidly organized, you're either going to go, God, no, I have no interest in doing that. This is my plan. Or God might have to break you to get you to flow the way that He wants you to go. Second reason is because God's purpose for your life trumps your desires. God's purpose for your life trumps or is more important than or will overcome your desires. So we organize our life based upon what we want, what our desires are. This is what I want out of life. I want to be healthy. I want to be wealthy. I want to be strong. I want to be tall. I want to be this. This is what I want out of life. And so we organize our life based upon what we want. But the problem is that God's plan for your life is bigger than, trumps, overwhelms your purpose. Proverbs 19:21. You can make many plans. Again, plans are not bad. But the Lord's purpose is going to be the one that prevails. So you make all the plans you want, but you better have that caveat, but God, whatever you want. Third reason, be organized, right? It's okay, but keep God at the center. Finally, because as detailed as your plans may be, how many of you literally have your entire year calendar planned out already? Anybody have their calendar planned out yet? Okay, a couple of you. All right, good for you guys. Way to go! Seriously, I'm not going to point you out, But that's awesome. But here's the thing. As detailed as your plans may be, are you ready for this? You have absolutely zero control about what's going to happen. You have zero control about what's going to happen. Listen to this, James 4:13 and 15. Look here, you who say, today or tomorrow, we're going to go to a certain town, and we'll stay there a year, and we'll do business there, and we'll make a profit. I love that. That's a great plan. Can anyone disagree with that plan? That sounds like a great plan, right? We're going to go over here, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to make a profit, and it's going to be awesome. It's great. He goes, okay, but take a deep breath, chill just a little bit, because, verse 15, what you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Now, this to me is always a little funny because I grew up Baptist church, right? I went to a very, very, very strict school kind of going up, and I always remembered this phrase. When people would pray, they would say something like this, Lord, according to your will. And it was always like that, right? It was like Charlie Dayton, God. It was always said that way, right? And that was like the little caveat at the end of the prayer, like, just in case you don't want to answer this prayer, God, according to your will. And that is absolutely not what's going on here. Here's what's actually going on. The writer, James, who is, by the way, the half-brother of Jesus Christ, is saying, listen, y'all, make your plans. It's all good. There's no problem with that. But you need to make your plans and then go like this. But God, whatever you want is what I'm going to do. It's not like, God, here are all my plans. Now I want you to bless it. Oh, that's just not your will. That's not the way that it works. It's got to be, God, whatever you want, I will do. But according to what I currently understand, according to what I see in front of me, this is the path I'm going to take unless you direct me differently. You see the difference in that? The difference is going, God, I'm going to start with you, I'm going to be in the middle with you, and I'm going to be in the end with you. So be organized. That's good. That's a great thing. But always keep God at the center. Okay, so now we're going to talk to our disorganized messes out there. Again, no raising hands, no pointing. We're going to have a conversation because this is really important. And if you are the organization freak married to the disorganized mess, don't squeeze hands, don't do anything like that. But I want to just say this is for you. Okay, here we go. You need to actually get organized. You need to get organized, and here's why. If you don't get organized, you're going to miss out. You need to get organized, or you're going to miss out. Now, here's what I don't mean. I don't mean today go out and buy the latest app that goes on your phone and do all this stuff and you know, get on the website and download every self-help thing. You don't need to be hyper-organized. You don't need to be so organized that you have your bathroom stops all planned out on the trip. You don't need to be that way. And that's so you're like, I do that. I'm like, I know. But you don't need to be that way. But you do need to have a sense of organization, a sense of process, a sense of priority in your life. Because if you don't have priority, if you don't have organization, then whatever is currently in your face is the most important thing, and you will wrap your life around that. And here's how you know if you are a disorganized mess. You literally go from crisis to crisis to chaos to chaos. If everything in your life is continual crisis, continual chaos, continual drama, most likely, we're talking 90th percentile, if we're going to put a percentage on it, it is because you have not organized your life sufficiently. So that means you need to take a step back and go, okay, I need to get organized. Why? Why? Because it's going to make your spouse happy, because other people? No, because if you don't organize, you're going to miss out on some amazing things that God has for your life. And that's the ultimate purpose, right? The ultimate purpose is to glorify God with our lives and give back to Him for all that He's given to us. So we need to actually get organized, because God actually set the world to be organized. And if you're going to live within the world, you actually have to have some sense of organization. You go, what do you mean God set the world to be organized? Well, look at this. Isaiah 45:18, for the Lord is God, and He created the heavens and the earth, and He put everything in its place. He made the world to be lived in, not to be a place of empty chaos. First of all, I want to pause for a minute because I love that phrase. He made the world to be lived in. If you are so anxious about everything that you're not living your life, you need to take a deep breath and take a spiritual Xanax, okay? Because God made your life to be lived. God made this world to be lived in. He created this world for human beings to enjoy, to live life to the fullest for the glory of our Creator. So we need to live our lives. But then he goes on, he goes, He made the world to be lived in, not to be a place of what? Empty chaos. You see, if you really want to live your life for the maximum benefit for the glory of God within this world, within the context that we currently live, you cannot live chaos to chaos, drama to drama, crisis to crisis. You have to actually get your life more organized. He continues, I am the Lord, He says, and there is no other. I'll just put this word at the end, there is no other way. God says, listen, I've made this world. I've set this world in order. I've made the heavens and the earth, the fall, winter, summer, spring. Although in Indiana, those kind of get confused sometimes. I've made this world a world of order, a world of organization. And you are to live within it for the glory of God. Therefore, you have to have some type of organization in your life, or you're going to miss out. Second reason it's important is because God works within organization, not within chaos. God works within organization, not within chaos. You go, well, where do you get that? Well, listen to this. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33, the Apostle Paul is writing to the church at Corinth. That's why it's called Corinthians. He says, for God is not a God of disorder. And he's talking about specifically the church meeting here, right? The meeting together of the church. But he says, listen, God is not a God of disorder. God's not a God of chaos and disorder and disruption and disorganization. That's not how God works. Now, granted, from our perspective sometimes, do we go, man, God, I have no idea what you're doing? Can we agree that we do that? We do that all the time. Why? Because we're human beings. We're not seeing it from His perspective. But from God's perspective, everything is where it's supposed to be. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. And if you want to maximize life, then you follow God according to His plan. And part of that is getting organized. He goes on, as in all the meetings of God's holy people. So when you get together, when you hang out, don't just be disorganized. Don't be chaotic, because that's not where God works. God doesn't work within the chaos. Now, can God work within the chaos? The answer is absolutely. But is that going to be where you find the greatest blessing, purpose, and plan for your life? No. So again, be organized, because if you're not, you might miss out. Third reason, because disorganization opens you up to sin and to failure. Disorganization opens you up to sin and to failure. Listen to this verse, James chapter 3, verse 16. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find what? Disorder and every evil practice. Now, again, a little gravity to this real quick, okay? James, the half-brother of Jesus Christ, literally takes disorder and he pairs it with evil ambition, chaos, sin, evil practices. That's a pretty heavy comparison, isn't it? That's not something that honestly that most people ever make that connection, that he is literally saying disorder is equal to, tantamount to, or leads to these things. It is something that opens us up to attacks from Satan that we should never be opened up to, because, again, we live our life chaos to chaos, drama to drama, crisis to crisis, and we are always worried about that which is right in front of us instead of what God has planned for us. So you need to get organized, or you might miss out. So here's what I want to do. I want to share with you just 3 simple things that you can do. If you are an over-organizer or you are a disorganized mess, you can do these 3 things and kind of bring everything to the center. And here's how I typically see it, and this is how my brain works. I don't have any massive studies, but I tend to think that there's about 10% of the population that are the over-organized freaks, right? They just, like, everything is organized, color-collated, a whole 9 yards. And then about 10% of the population is about this disorganized mess. And then where most of us live is somewhere in that 80 gray area. And so for those of you that are kind of in that 80 gray area, this is really what you need to do. And the first thing is this: simplify. Simplify. Not simplify, simplify. Simplify. This is really all about going, you know what? If I overdo it, I'll never follow through it. I'm just not going to. If you overdo it, you're going to miss out. Things are going to happen. You over-organize. You're going to organize God out of the picture. You're going to do all these things. So simplify it. Make things easy. There are a lot of things that you can actually automate today. Because here's the thing. The more complex you get about your plan, the more likelihood you're going to have a complex failure. Because it's hard to stick to it. So simplify. Make it easy for you to get organized. Second thing, avoid prime time. And I'm not talking about primetime TV. I'm talking about prime time, when everybody else is doing it. Those of you that maybe have a flexible work schedule, instead of going in when everybody else goes in, either go in before them or after them, and either leave before them or leave after them. Do it at a different time frame, because listen, if you have an hour drive to work because of rush hour, yet you leave 45 minutes early and it only takes you then a half hour, then you actually get more time to actually get things done. Does that make sense? If you're like me, I am not a morning person. Morning people? Yeah, we don't respond because we're still asleep, right? We're just not. I'm not a morning person. And so there's a lot of people like, listen, I really, this is when I do my time with God. This is when I do my devotions. And I'm like, listen, if I do that, I would fall asleep and I would have pages of the Bible stuck to my face. That's what would happen to me. So I'm more of an afternoon or an evening type person. And so I organize it around my time and when my flow of things work. So you don't have to just stick with what everyone else is doing. Do what's going to be most effective for you. Do what you are going to be able to do so that you can maximize your life, because you only get one. We're supposed to live it for the glory of God. And the final one is this: assume responsibility. Assume responsibility. as a culture, have gravitated towards the victim blaming, it's not my fault mindset. And I'm not pointing at one generation because it is multi-generational. It's everybody else's fault except for mine. Only one person can organize your life, and that's you. Only one person can grab your time, your energy by the horns and say, I am going to funnel all of this for the glory of God, and that's you. You are the only person that can do it. You go, no, you don't know who I'm married to. He's made me, no. That's forcing, right? That is conforming, not transforming. And God wants to transform you, the Bible says, from the inside out. So that's got to come from you. That's got to come from the Spirit of God working in you and helping you learn how to organize your life better. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get help from someone else, because the Bible says a wise man seeks counsel. So seek counsel, talk to other people, ask those questions, but you have to ultimately assume the responsibility for your life, because you're the only one who can do it. If you're always pointing fingers at everybody else, then you will always miss out on what God has for you. Because then it's not your fault, and you can't fix it if it's not your fault. Somebody else has got to fix it. And so you're always waiting on someone else to fix your problem. You're always waiting on your spouse. You're always waiting on your parents. You're always waiting on, heaven forbid, the government to fix your problems. And you will never see what God has for you until you assume responsibility. Bottom line is, you only have one life. You only have one life, and once it's over, it is over. And Jesus died to give you a new life with a new purpose and new meaning and significance. So don't waste it because you refuse to simply be disorganized. Don't waste it because you refuse to simply be organized. Don't be disorganized. That's a bad thing. Don't waste it. Don't waste it by going, well, I don't want to sit down and figure that out. I don't want to take the time to think that through. I don't want to process that. At the same time, don't waste the unbelievable journey that God has for you because you've organized God out of it. Don't sit back and go, I've got to plan this all out, and if it doesn't go according to plan, then, well, I'm just not going to do it. Begin the plan and end the plan with God, and then embrace the journey that God has for you. Because organization is ultimately the secret ingredient to a maximized life. My encouragement for you this week, and maybe even today, is to take a few minutes. Take a few minutes, and maybe if you've taken notes today, just look through those things and ask yourself an honest question. Where are you? Again, this is not a message to go, listen, let me tell you how to maximize your time so that you can make all your dreams come true. No. This is about the fact that your life has been given to you by an unbelievable, gracious, loving God who wants to do amazing things through you and in you. And then you have God the Son who died on a cross to give you a new life and a new attitude and a new perspective. So don't waste it by simply being disorganized. Father God, we thank you so much.